Pledge allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Happy Monday morning, all. First on the agenda is to approve the minutes of last one here. September 18th, 2023 is written.
I'll start
Moved by Meese. Seconded by McCurry. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor say aye.
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 I'll abstain.
Abstain, 1. Miscellaneous motions. Moved to authorize director chairman to sign installation authorization form for MT Networks to install all needed equipment to complete the fiber installation at 1234 Old Highway 50, Lebo, Kansas.
So moved.
Moved.
And second that.
Moved by Hugan, seconded by Thompson. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. Next one is, move to reappoint Aaron Copeland, District 2, as a member of Coffee County Housing Board to a 4-year term effective October 27, 23, and ending October 26, 2027.
I'll so move. I'll second.
Moved by Meeks, seconded by McCurry. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. We gave this today, Dave, didn't we?
I'll just
Minutes. Okay, that's it. We'll call her 905. Amelia, you're up. To the next contestant.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you guys?
Good.
Okay, so the health department's been pretty busy with event planning and the wellness committee. I have a few flyers to pass out to you guys. So the first one is the drive-through flu clinic that we do every year. You're welcome. Would you like to read? Okay, so drive-through flu shot clinics we do every year. They're going to look a little bit different. We're going to do all of them this year from 5:30 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. Historically, we had the Burlington one during the day, but we wanted to be able to offer outside of business hours because if patients of Coffee County want during the day, they can just come to the health department. So the dates are September 27th in Neustron, October 4th in Lebo, October 9th in Waverly, October 11th in Leroy, and October 16th in Gridley, October 18th in Burlington. And on the back we have consent forms. These flyers can be found at all of the Coffee County libraries along with the city halls. And we ask patients to fill their consent forms out before the flu clinics and make sure that they bring their insurance cards so we can run them for insurance. And the prices stayed the same from last year. You guys have any questions on that one?
I'm assuming it's going to be at the
Fire
libraries.
station.
Oh, it's going to be at the fire
Mhm.
station?
Yep.
Okay.
All the fire stations.
Okay. I think I seen this earlier. Baby.
Yeah, so this event is actually coming up in a week. So this event is one that we've put on every year, the Safe Sleep Community Baby Shower. So this is for mothers who are expecting and mothers for infants, toddlers 18 months and younger, and we do encourage caregivers to go as well. So this event is Monday, October 2nd from 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. Registration starts at 5, and the mothers must be present to win. So I was able to obtain some additional grant funding for this event. So we had quite a bit more money to be able to give out to the expecting moms. So we have some big items that we will be drawing. You guys probably aren't too familiar with like the baby trend wagon that you can strap the kiddos in that has like the SPS, so that's going to be one of them. And we'll also have some baby carriers and approximately 11 gift baskets to raffle out at the end. So this event will give a bunch of resources out to the mothers and caregivers on what Coffee County offers and the surrounding counties as well.
The little wagons aren't cheap.
No, they're not. They're $200-300 for some of the cheaper ones, so yeah. But we're looking forward to that event. It'll be nice to be able to offer some of those gift baskets. And we have several moms registered already. I want to say we have 18 from what I checked this morning. I did put advertisement in the paper for the Safe Sleep Community Baby Shower along with the drive-through flu clinic. So this next one, the Wellness Committee has been working on. This is the Coffee County Employee Health Fair. So it is going to be held on October 31st from 7:30 to 11:30. So this is just our annual health fair for our county employees. The theme, of course, is Halloween, and they would like everybody to dress up as a fellow county employee for the day. To add a little bit of fun. Everybody, all the employees that plan on attending, we do recommend them to RSVP to Lindsay Byer by October 20th. The health department will be offering biometric screening, so weight, muscle, body fat index, and then we'll also be doing blood pressure tests, and I believe that's it.
Sounds like a full time.
We will also offer some flu shots too. Oh, it'll be great. We'll have snacks. So, yeah. Any questions on that?
Looks
And
like busy months.
yes, this is our busy season.
Good deal.
And then once we have all of our skipping back to the flu shots, once we have all of our drive-through flu clinics done, we will start offering more flu shots within the health department. We just want to make sure that we have enough for those drive-through flu shot clinics. Our second shipment of flu shots have not came in yet, which is completely normal. They usually come in 2 different batches, depending on the amount that we order. And we will be offering the quadrivalent, regular dose, and the high dose. So regular dose is for 6 months of age and older, and the high dose is 65 years and older.
For the old guys.
Nicely, yes.
Elderly. Elderly, that's a better word.
Individuals.
Elderly individuals. We're all getting there.
And then a little update on our EHR, our electronic health record. We are still working towards going live with our LabCorp interface. I did send out a test lab order last week, and there was a little bit of a complication with that, so we're trying to iron that out. But once we get a successful one sent over, we will establish a go live date on that. And then our Kansas Web IZ, we're working at establishing a go live date for that as well. So hopefully we'll have those interfaces up and going within the next month.
How long you been working on that? Since you got here?
since I got here. So they started Patagonia. They went live with the actual EHR back in end of April, beginning of May. And then once I became full-time the week of May 22nd, is whenever I started with the process of getting those interfaces going to help reduce time on charting, because they were having to chart things 2 or 3 times, which will actually save a lot of time and a lot of money. And they're interfaces that we've already paid for, so we might as well use them. Another fun thing for county employees, with it being Breast Cancer Awareness Month coming up next week, for October, we would like to do the Pink It Out Mondays again. So everybody on Mondays wear pink. And I believe that is pretty much it. Just a little heads up, we have had several patients calling and asking if we are offering RSV and COVID vaccines. So we are looking into that. The cost is very pricey, and that is outside of our administration fee. So we are still trying to pull numbers for COVID, and for RSV, we have the numbers pulled, and insurances do not cover too terribly much of it, unfortunately. So the patients will just have to be aware that it's a pretty good chunk out of pocket. So, yeah. You guys have any questions on that?
Insurance does not cover RSV or COVID?
They only cover a certain percent. And so, for example, like if we do private and public, so if we charge a certain amount for private, we have to charge that amount for public. So that's for the uninsured and underinsured. So you have to, we're recommending the patients to follow up with their insurance companies to see how much they do have to pay out of pocket. And there's some facilities that are charging $160, and patient responsibility is kind of high on that. It just depends on insurance companies. So the RSV vaccine, this is new this year. I don't know if you guys have been following any of that. It's very new. With infants, the regulations on that looks a little bit different than the adults. So infants, they are recommending them to be vaccinated, not required, recommending them to be vaccinated before their first RSV season. So October through March-ish. And if they are born within that time frame, they are recommending them get it within the first month of life. Adults, just pretty much any time of the year, they're recommending to start now. And it's kind of like the high-dose flu. They're recommending 60 and older, 60, 65 and older. But we've had several of these 60 and 65 and older asking about those. We haven't had any pediatric patients yet.
Interesting.
So we are looking at that. They've been on back order along with COVID vaccines, but we are still trying to get that process down for COVID vaccines.
Are they going to be expensive also?
Yes, because, they're going to be expensive. It's quite a bit out of pocket for the patients, even if we do run their insurance. So the state has recently stopped giving health departments those immunizations free, COVID vaccines free, because the pandemic had officially ended back in May. So it's going to be a pretty penny out of pocket.
I will say, it come through my family again, and it wasn't near as bad as the other times. It's still a flu, basically, that settled in the backs, and some didn't even run a fever, you know, and even some infants, they ran some higher fevers. 101, 102.
Mhm.
But, they probably took it to worse.
Yeah.
Come and went.
Yep. Chronic conditions and young and
Yeah, then-
65 and older, it seems to hit them the hardest.
Mhm.
Which our cases, I mean, we've been having no more than 5 a week, but that's only if they test the hospitals whenever they report it to KDHE. So we don't capture all of the positives because they do have those home tests that they're using. But the individuals, they do not report it to KDHE.
Thank you. Sounds like you've been busy.
Yes.
Gonna be
very-
busy.
Yes, very busy. Well, thank you guys.
Thank you for the information. Thank
No
you.
problem. Have a good rest of your day.
You too. Whoa. Mr. Sheriff Tom,
Sirs,
you're up.
requesting an executive session, 30 minutes, county commission and Wade, for ongoing litigation.
I'm trying. Session, Sheriff, Wade Bowie, Commission, $30. I will move.
And it would be under the attorney-client, just,
Attorney-client.
yeah.
By Knight, seconded by McCurry. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye, motion passes. We'll enter at 9:19 for 30 minutes. Get you a wink for the. Phew. Well, it's break time. Anybody need a break? Yeah, let's take a break. Take a break till 10 o'clock.
Okay.
Lights out. Lights out. All right, 10 o'clock. We're at 10 o'clock. Road and Bridge Superintendent Ryan Durst, you're up, sir. Oh, Amber, sorry.
I'll give
I jumped way ahead. Sorry, Amber.
my thought. You can-
No, it's all right. We will prolong, Ryan.
I have two motions that I apologize I didn't get to you Friday, Angie. They're real quick.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Piece of paper. Just two.
These are yearly.
No, actually, KDM requires that we try to update them every 10 years, so
Okay.
unless something changes, they last.
Formality then.
Yeah, yeah.
So do we need to put something in the motion for 10-year or?
No,
No,
I wouldn't
don't
put a date on
anything,
it.
okay.
Then you're gonna make me have to come back in here in 10 years. And
I hope I'm not here. I won't require
I'm not
anything.
either, I can dream.
All right. Upon recommendation of Emergency Management Director, move to authorize the Director Chairman to sign letter of agreement with Unified School District 244 as presented. I'll move.
I'll second that.
Moved by McCurry, seconded by Thompson. Any discussion?
I haven't seen the agreement.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We don't have
Shoot.
anything presented.
Sorry. And I didn't make copies of those. Shoot, I'm sorry.
It'd have to be.
basically just stating that they're gonna use the school buses to evacuate
Yep.
people, blah, blah, blah.
And that's it. We didn't work anything else in there.
Nice.
They'll provide drivers and school buses for a Wolf Creek emergency, for the public and, special needs.
That's what it was.
Yeah, sorry.
No, no, you're fine.
I believe we talked about this a few weeks ago.
We
though.
did,
I think we did.
We did, and I'm still kind of in talks with not only 244, but, the bus contractor at USD 243. He feels like that he needs a little bit more than what he's getting.
You mentioned that.
Yeah, so we're working on it. But 244 was good with theirs.
243, you said the bus, now say that again,
The
what,
bus contractor
for,
for 243.
there's two of them, is there not?
Waverly, Waverly.
Waverly, because Lebo's outside the 10 mile,
Okay.
so we don't have to have an agreement with them to evacuate. So first and foremost, the bus contractors must be able to evacuate the students. The school has to have enough buses to evacuate their students and staff to the reception center. But then on top of that, we ask that they provide the buses and or drivers after they've evacuated the school so we can evacuate the public for anybody that doesn't have cars or have a ride or anything in the affected areas. So the schools have to have a bus contractor. I mean, they have to do daily routes. They have to have that. So he's already needed by the school. I don't know. Some of his suggestions were radio maintenance. He would like us to pay for the radio maintenance because apparently some gentleman's agreement years ago, prior to me, was that we put radios in all those buses and that we should maintain them. Well, I can't find any paperwork that states that. But we're working on it. We're working on it because if we go where we're going, the old radios out of the fire trucks that we were replacing and the old radios out of the jail and my office are going to go to the school anyways. But as far as maintenance, I don't know.
I've got a radio that's 15 years old, I don't know what kind of maintenance needs to be done to it.
Well, for them, for school buses, anytime they get a new bus, the radio has to be taken out and installed. That's not something that I'm comfy with Martin doing yet, because if TFMcom comes in and does it, or whoever, they guarantee their work. It's
Right, it's under warranty.
under warranty, yes, under warranty. Martin can't do that. And if we get to where we're sending our people out every time someone gets a new bus or something, I just don't know what that looks like. If their radio stops working, something like that, I don't know. But we're in talks with it, and we're going to talk about it with the radio group, too, on how this kind of looks. But there was no change on 244s. They were fine with theirs.
My thing is, if that nuclear plant's melting down, how many people's actually gonna be driving the bus?
Well, we discussed that, and that's why we have Road and Bridge. They have CDLs. They may not be bus ready, but in an emergency, we just got to get people out there. It brings me to mind when they had Hurricane Katrina, and all those buses just sat there in the flood.
Because there wasn't anybody there.
Jump in a bus and go get some people. Like,
Save yourself. All right, motion on the floor has been moved and seconded. Any other
Second, I didn't get the second.
McCray moved and Thompson.
You guys, okay, sorry, I just,
This is with,
you heard John say.
this is here with,
I didn't hear.
sorry.
oh,
This is a sort of a contract with Burnsville 244, and Amber made comment on 243 wasn't a good fit for them, or the monetary part wasn't gonna be there for them.
So their buses are already committed to.
I know they're committed to those routes, yeah. But if it gets to the point where they are
okay.
taking all the citizens to either Hartford or Gate Center, are the buses being paid?
Do what? Sorry, missed that one.
Yeah, you know, this is for 244.
Mhm.
You followed up with a comment on 243. I didn't quite understand what your first statement was, but say that, you know, their first comment is to get all the students into safety.
Mhm.
Second one is get all the citizens to safety.
Mhm.
Do those bus companies get reimbursed for, that's it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
And
once
that's what I
they,
thought I caught on 243,
right,
the reimbursement wasn't enough.
right.
Okay.
Right. Once they drop citizens off at the reception center, whether it be, Yates Center or, Hartford, once they drop them off and they come back in, then they are emergency workers for us, is what that is. And they will keep track of their time and get reimbursed through all this, through Wolf Creek's, insurance
Insurance
provider.
claim.
Yeah.
And 243 right now doesn't think that reimbursement's enough.
Well, right, yes. And 244 alluded to that also, but 244 has a different situation. They have more students than they had buses, and so they have to keep some extra buses that they don't use during their regular routes. So they have 2 buses just sitting there just in case something happens at Wolf Creek, and they wanted paid for those, or they wanted us to pay for those. I told him that we need to look at how many transits, how many vans, how many cars and stuff that they have, that maybe those other 2 buses aren't even needed. But that's where we left
So
that.
right now, you're in negotiations with 43.
Right.
About 245.
He hasn't really said a whole lot. They were supposed to get us back their agreement. He was
Okay.
okay with it. He was fine with it.
Okay.
And we've been in training with, well, actually, we trained both, Bayer and, my brain is not working today.
It's Monday.
I know, who's
Is
in,
it still Nords or
no, it's,
not? Ellis?
yes, Ellis. My brain's not working. Okay, there's a couple of changes that I'm gonna need to make to this one, so let's hold off on 244. It still says county engineer for the highway department.
Okay,
So let's hold off on that one, but the next one we can do.
motion died on the table.
Motion died. Thank you.
No? What do you
Say
do?
yes.
Yeah, because I'm gonna have to have, Craig Marshall already signed this, so I'm gonna have to have him re-sign it when I make a copy, so.
Been moved and seconded.
Dale, it's favorable, I guess.
No
Can we
vote, failed.
rescind the motion? Can I do that?
Was there a final vote?
No,
No.
No vote, yeah.
There's just a no vote.
I guess nobody could vote. I say all in favor. Say aye.
Yeah.
All opposed, nay. Nay. There we are.
I'll come back with that one.
Motion failed.
We'll work through it.
So what about the next
We'll
one?
do the next
Do you
Next
want-
one is, next one is,
Is that something you wish to read over as well, Wade?
yes, we'll let before you ask for motion. I should have had it up here Friday and I didn't get it up here. Or I can read it to you if you guys all want.
Well,
Is this-
it's more if it's a contract that Wade's content with it.
Right.
This is a letter of agreement with the Adjutant General that will provide the JSB to them during a Wolf Creek event.
That's on Mr.
And that's already on,
Yes.
this is just a,
Yep,
a renewal.
yep, just because it was 10 years or
Okay.
older. And the director of KDM signed it, Angie Morgan signed it. She signed it electronically.
Yeah, I looked at that, that was a cool signature.
It makes it hard, though, for us when people sign things electronically like that because we can only print it. We can't do anything else with it. You can't save it. You can't do anything. You can just scan it.
Mhm.
It makes it hard. But it's like that for a reason. While Wade's looking over that, we could talk about the pre-exercise that we had. Did you guys all get the text? I know a couple of you weren't there, but you didn't get the text?
I wasn't there.
I know, but did you get the text?
I did, yes.
You did, okay. You know if you got the text on your phone that, because I put the whole commission plus the county attorney into the system.
I don't know.
Okay, well, check for me and let me know, and if you
Okay.
didn't, we still got something wrong.
It was a text.
Yeah, just a text, it said something like, red team activated, please come down. But I wanna make sure that it's working so that when you guys are coming. that
Oh,
you
yeah,
get it.
I did,
Okay.
that morning, yeah.
Yeah, that
I
one.
got it.
Good, good. The state and FEMA had some questions and needed some clarification on things that happened or didn't happen during the pre-exercise. Just because we started so late and the time crunch, we didn't get to everything that they wanted to see. But they ended the exercise early, so, I mean,
Yeah, really abruptly.
yeah. So, I felt like the EOC worked really good. I thought we did a very good job of communicating. The state has asked that we participate in the second pre-exercise on October 11th, so we'll plan for that. Another practice.
That's the regular date fix.
Yep, yep. We just were unsure whether they were gonna have us do it, but the state's kinda pushing for us to do another practice,
It
which is
got
good.
cut short real quick.
Yeah, well, and we started late, so, I mean, the time crunch was,
There's unlimited time for everybody.
yeah. Yeah.
I
Yep.
think we as commissioners sitting there, to me, I was shocked that they cut that thing off like they did.
I know. I was on my way to do the last thing and then they stopped, so. So I will send something out about the October 11th date that we're gonna activate the EOC again. Hopefully the morning will start off a little smoother. As you guys know, we had a high-speed car chase around the county that morning. I believe that the sheriff's office was hoping that we would not have participated in the drill because their people were so busy, but I got the okay from dispatch, so we went ahead and started. But I think everything worked out. I am open for any training suggestions that you guys might have before that date. If you want to learn WebEOC, I can teach you whatever you need.
The only thing I had was a question about only having 3 commissioners there and
Right.
one falls ill and can't continue. And I visited with Wade a little bit
Good.
this morning and he asked, is there anything in the policy procedure about that?
In your policy and procedure for the county, no. In our Wolf Creek,
I would think it'd be Wolf Creek, it shouldn't be anything in the county, I wouldn't think.
in our plan and procedure, it does that, and we read about that, is when the chairman, the vice chairman, and then how did it go? Did it go me, then you? How did that?
Not sure.
I can't remember.
Can't remember either.
There is a hierarchy in our plan for making protective action decisions. And it's actually in the plan, and I can bring it up next time when I bring the 244 up. But
Was it,
it doesn't say anything about not having a quorum or anything, and we can change that. This is the time to change that.
yeah,
We
I
can.
think that probably needs to be looked at, because let's say you have 2, they're still in a position to be able to make decisions, and if both of, let's say it's Jesse and Tom,
Mhm.
and they make a decision, but 3 of them aren't there for whatever reason, or they have 3 and 1 falls ill,
Mhm.
they should still have the ability to make that decision, and somebody ends up being the tiebreaker if they have opposite positions.
Right.
But I don't know who that would be, maybe you? maybe-
Well, and the hierarchy, sheriff, so it goes, in our plan, it goes chairman, vice chair, sheriff, me, and then Angie. Is the
So
hierarchy.
2 other elected officials, basically, which I figured there'd be something
I'm
towards
not
that.
elected, though.
Well, there'd be 2 other.
Oh, yeah.
But, I mean, you are the emergency person.
I guess.
But if there's 3 there and 1 down, that's still even.
Leaves you 2 commissioners and 2 other elected
Right.
officials.
Right.
And your.
I guess what I'm getting at is
emergency
that 2 would be the quorum of,
3's a quorum, but 2's not.
What if none of those 3 is a chairman or vice chairman?
I know, that's, I mean, that's,
Oh,
you could,
yeah, I see.
you could muddy the water something deep in there.
You could, you really could, so we probably need to clarify it, so I can work with you on it. See if I can get, Kate in to give you a little bit of guidance on how that goes too.
I think the wording just probably needs to be modified to reflect, because if you have three that show up and not the chairman or the vice chairman, you're still decision makers for the county.
Right.
You still need to have the ability to make those decisions if you can.
I just assumed that automatically you relinquish the authority back to the sheriff, because the sheriff had it to begin with.
And you could,
So,
you also could do that.
or
There's,
along with the sheriff, the
Right.
two along with the sheriff make the decision.
Right.
because that's who was making it prior to.
right, as long as the sheriff's there, right? I mean, and.
The sheriff or under.
The clerk's there.
Yeah, so I mean,
Yeah.
I think it just, it needs to be spelled out,
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah. It's new wording, yeah.
Okay, you, content with the agreement?
It'll probably never be an issue, but I'm an attorney, so when I read certain things, any excessive damage to this area during the use of the state forward staging area will be the responsibility of the state, who gets to make the decision on
Excessive,
damage.
yeah. When I read that, I thought, well, what about the minor damage you do,
Well,
you know?
yeah,
I would say any damage.
well, that's.
And we can do that, I mean,
They're borrowing
I can do
county
that.
property if they damage county property, because then we're defining, who's defining excessive. And if we go back to the county using the park for,
The circus.
the circus, I mean, that was something we had to deal with, because who's defining what damage meets that threshold?
What's excessive?
The county could say it's excessive, but they could look at it and say, that's nowhere even close to excessive. If they're using it, in my opinion, they need to pay for damages. Or have two people look at it and someone decide, but I don't like the word excessive.
I don't either, and I can go back and get that one with it too. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Yes,
All right.
thank you, I'm sorry to get these ran through you.
That's okay.
I thought, well, they've been in existence for 20-some years. Nobody's gonna find anything, I should have known better, huh?
We wouldn't hear that.
Yeah, I know, right? The next thing, I did email you all letting you know that Tim and I were gonna be gone for a conference. Were you guys okay with that and the understanding of why I emailed you rather than coming up here?
Yeah, we did away with the public announcement of,
Okay.
being gone.
I
There's
haven't
a,
watched the
We
meeting.
understand that.
Okay.
the health department gives us a form, a identify deal, that we
Oh.
pass around and sign, that way each of us acknowledge.
Okay, would you like me to do that also? And you want all
Any
departments?
department that way.
Any department, okay, I hadn't,
Yeah.
That way we're not announcing when.
We're not
They
announcing,
just
you're not.
send a
gonna
letter
be
and
on.
say which
Yeah.
dates they're gonna
okay,
be.
just, so department heads just need to have a letter and send it around to you guys.
I think all the other department heads know, probably, with you being new, probably didn't
Yeah, I didn't
have
know
that.
that. I just remember there was something in the minutes about, come up and tell us, and I'm like, well, I don't
Yeah.
wanna announce it to everybody that I'm gone.
Exactly.
Right, I agree.
Okay, good, that's great. As far as training and exercise, as soon as I leave here, I'm on my way to Newman Hospital to train their staff to take contaminated patients, and then Newman is evaluated, on Wednesday. Just like we get evaluated in the schools and everybody, Newman Hospital is evaluated Wednesday, so we're going up to train all their people. So, then we have Lyon County Reception Center getting evaluated October 19th, and then we will be evaluated on the 14th, but I will see you guys October 11th. Can everybody make it to that one, or?
To my knowledge.
For now,
Yeah,
right?
For right now, yes.
Okay.
You said October.
October 11th.
October 11th for us, and I'll send out another email. Are you guys okay with being on those emails? I know all 5 of them being on an email, if they respond back, that's kind of a no-no, but,
I think they know not to respond.
not to, don't respond to me.
You can also put in your subject line, do not respond to this email or something like that.
Or I could just send it to you guys separate, not with the whole group, you know, because it's all red team that I send it to, and you guys
I won't respond.
don't respond.
I don't respond either.
Don't respond to any of my
I don't
emails?
respond at all.
I normally hit that button that starts with a D.
See?
We can get 800 emails a day.
Oh, I know. If I can get mine below 100, my inbox, I'm happy, but it rarely happens.
Rarely happens, I'm sure.
Okay, I will come back next week and I will have some good reporting on these, and is it okay if I send it to you when I get them? Okay. Thank you guys very
Thanks,
much.
Amber.
All right, now Randers, Road and Bridge Superintendent, county mowing, topic of discussion.
First thing, I got a few motions to take care of here. We didn't have any call-outs this week. And it's that time of year, we need to go out get some proposals for our groundwater monitoring for the next 2 years. I think the last time we had this done 2 years ago, it cost $15,000, and basically it's 6 reports throughout 2 years that goes to the state. Pretty in-depth stuff. This is just, October is our next date, we gotta get that report done. So,
Based on the recommendation of the Road and Bridge Superintendent to approve the Road and Bridge Superintendent to solicit and request from Blackstone Environmental for groundwater monitoring services, 2 events per year, and an annual leaching monitoring.
I so moved.
Can we change that wording just a little bit to
Yeah.
say, recommendation of the Road and Bridge Superintendent to approve soliciting a request? Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine, yeah. I was thinking about that earlier, and
I know when you read it, I said, oh, okay.
I'll second that.
I so moved. Craig will second.
moved by Mr. Tom, seconded by McCurry. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Motion passes.
alright, thank you, and this is just, for an overnight stay for some training for landfill. Swana, for Wayne Arbor and myself. Coming up before long.
Do you have additional motions for you?
No,
Okay.
there shouldn't be, that's the only motion. Discussion on some paint totes. So, years ago, we used to get our paints in barrels, now everything's going to those plastic totes. They've been accumulating out of the landfill. We've never really set a price in place. Typically, that's something that the commission would set in place. You know, there's dry paint inside of them. I don't know that there's a lot of value to them, but we did have somebody inquire last week if we would sell those. So after talking with the landfill out there, $10, used to sell barrels for $5. You know, somebody wants to store a little used oil in one, I think. They burn oil. And as far as being able to clean them out and make them usable, you'd never get the paint out of them.
You're talking those 250 gallon?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
You can't recycle them.
They don't. They don't take them back. They say there's no value to them, so we've just kind of been collecting them the last 2 or 3 years, and, obviously we'll get more this year, but, I think we can just set a price, and if people start buying them, good. If not, we'll just sell them in the county auction at some point and unload them, or...
I would say that you can get $10 out of them. That's just my opinion.
It's something. They've been sitting there for,
But you were selling metal barrels prior,
we sold the old paint barrels, to the public.
so it's nothing new.
No, this is
Plastic
just,
went from metal to plastic.
right.
I just didn't know if Wade would have something to weigh in on that, but.
Well, I'm sure you would, but we've been doing it prior to this, so
There's quite a few businesses around that's got those
I use it for oil, yeah.
20 gallon, 200 gallon tanks.
Yeah.
I think every elevator's got a bunch of them.
Well, if they can be cleaned out, I think there's a use and some value, a little more value to them. Like I said, there's dry paint on the inside of these, so you never get them cleaned out.
Your chemical tank's gotta be rinsed out three times.
Right.
3 times, not to
Yeah,
see.
yeah.
I think it'd be a general, we're okay at $10, is that right?
Okay,
Yeah,
I'll pass that on.
because they don't usually bring more than that at the county sale, so, but what I've seem to remember in the past, so
Yeah,
that'd be fine. If you don't get them sold, line them up and sell them.
right. Right, okay, that sounds good. All right, next I'd like to have just some discussion on some mowing. So, currently we have 2 asphalt mower operators and 8 blademen. Looking at our current mowing policy, the only thing I could find, we have something in place from 2009, and it states that starting May 1st, we would start mowing to receive 1 pass until drier weather allows, and then we would mow back to the right-of-way lines. at some point in time, I think there was some discussion, and that's why I invited Mr. Giroff today, so I'm sure he'll speak here pretty soon. But at some point, there was some discussion had, I believe, with Commission and Mr. Giroff and Wayne Blackburn, that we were going to hold off on our MOBAC date until Columbus Day. I can't find any documentation on it. You know, as I've taken over this department, I kind of look at everything we do, and, you know, if I see a need of maybe why do we do something the way we do, I evaluate it. This year, I was asked about mowing back here a couple of weeks ago, and I said, yeah, that's, you know, let's get a start on it. And I was reminded about this conversation that had taken back in the past. So that's, you know, that's where Mr. Giroff reminded me, and I talked to Wayne Blackburn, and yeah, he said there was a discussion had back then. So we stopped mowing back. I would like to consider mowing back sooner for a few reasons. One thing with our blademen, you know, we're mowing back between now and Christmas. It takes so long to get mowed back when we finally start that. You know, right now, as crops are coming out, that's a good time for the blade guys to be getting in those ditches and cleaning out those ditches, maintaining those ditches, rolling back in the fields. It's such a short window for them to be able to do that between wheat and cover crops being planted. And, you know, so that's one thing that would help out with them. On another thing is, you know, getting our gravel roads into shape heading into winter. Typically, you know, fall gets a little rainier, you know, so we're trying to mow / get our roads in shape / you know, dealing with some rain. So that was one thing. If we were mowed back sooner, it'd help out there. On our asphalt roads, when we start mowing back, they average at most 2 miles a day. We have 240 miles of asphalt, 2 mowers. So I mean, with perfect weather, you know, you're looking at 3 months of mowing with perfect weather. That's no breakdowns, perfect weather. That's a long time. You know, it's getting stretched out there a long time. You know, if we could get our mowing done sooner, I'd be able to utilize those people in other places, such as our seeding, which, you know, right now we should be seeding, doing our fall seeding. You know, if we do that now, we take away from guys that's putting in entrances or ditch cleaning. And, you know, so the more people we can get freed up to assist other crews is always an advantage to us. Then you get into the safety aspect of it. You know, I'm not an expert in this, but, you know, it seems to me that if we had a little more mowing done on some of these right-of-ways, as the days are getting shorter, it would help to see increased wildlife, especially at nighttime. And I think you'd have hopefully a little more chance to avoid some collisions. You know, I know when rut hits, obviously the deer accidents increase tremendously. So I just, you know, it's just looking at it in the safety side of things. You know, I don't know what the best answer is for the citizens here, but you know, we definitely need to have some discussion and look at if we need to change our mowing policy. The other side would be possible dealing with some noxious weeds. I don't know much in that field, but, you know, I do know, just dealing with my own personal freezer stuff, that, you know, right now that stuff hasn't seeded out yet. So if I don't have mine sprayed, I try to, you know, I even do some work for my neighbor. I try to make sure at least get it mowed down before it seeds out. You know, maybe it helps control some of it, you know, if it doesn't seed out, I don't know. But I think there'd be some points there. So
I would say right now, you know, you got these deer that's been living in this cornfield for the last 3 months. You know, now the combine's rolling through the field, so the deer running out of the cornfield. You know, what they've been using as bedding, you know, where they've been sleeping and eating is gone now, so they're gonna be up moving more throughout, you know, when corn harvest started until beans is out, you know. So, I mean, you're gonna see more activity, and then you're gonna roll right into rut. You know, so, go ahead, sorry.
So, I mean, that's just a few points I have, why I think we should consider mowing back sooner than the Columbus Day date. You know, and Mr. Giroux, I think would probably like to speak and, you know, make some points on why that Columbus Day date is set, so. Sure.
Come on up. I guess the proper thing is state your name and address, sir.
I'll do that. I'm Leonard Urock, 540 16th Road, Hartford, Kansas, 66854. I've been a professional biologist for the last 50 years, 45 years, I'm getting stretched a little bit. 47. Anyway, I worked for Wildlife and Parks for 40 years, and now I'm still doing biological work. I am a farmer also. And I want to thank Ryan for inviting me to the meeting, have a discussion, and keep it civil. But we have a concern, several of us here, that could have brought in a lot more. It might be a trivial matter to you guys, but it's not to us. Don, you were in on the past discussion, I believe, when we talked about mowing.
That's been 6 years ago.
6 or 7 years ago. We would ask for quite a few changes. We ended up with a compromise that we could all live with, and it's worked pretty good the last 5 or 6 years. So I'm going to bring up a couple of things. We reached a compromise with Wade and Blackburn. He called me and told me they wouldn't mow back to the right-of-way until after Columbus Day, and that's worked pretty good. And now Ryan wants to change that policy, and I'm going to tell you why I don't think we should. As of present time, if you notice, there's a beautiful fall bloom in the roadsides. You might call them weeds. I've got pictures of them here. They all have names, and a lot of us call them weeds because we can't identify them. Anyway, the federal government has spent millions of dollars, and also landowners have planted those same plants in CRP and pollinator plantings. So they are important. We got some pictures of them here, and people always say, well, what good are they? Well, I can give you several reasons. They're beautiful. They have intrinsic value. How they make you feel. They're great for wildlife, but also I've put on here their economic value. If you have to buy them, it'll shock you what they cost. But these plants are very important for the butterflies, honeybees this time of year. It's the last bloom. They need the pollen. They need the nectar. There's a monarch society, several of them all over the United States, trying to save the monarch butterflies, if you know what they are. They're diminishing in numbers tremendously. And one society wants a billion new milkweed plants just to save the butterflies. Because one of these days, if they're on the endangered list, their habitat will be considered critical. You may not be able to mow. They may not get federal funds when you mow. There's things like that can happen. Beekeepers are really important to beekeepers. We've got several dozen beekeepers in the county. This is the time for the bees to take in the last nectar to get through the winter. And a lot of other insects too that I won't mention that don't have the economic value that do have intrinsic values. And then also those bees, we need to keep them around because they're really important for crop pollination. You farmers all know that. And they're in trouble around the United States. Have a lot of problems with hive collapse, dying over the winter. I am a beekeeper myself, and so it's pretty important to me. And it has quite an economic impact nowadays. Honey's worth quite a bit. And like I said, they're really important for pollination. And a lot of the birds are tied to the insects on these plants. I don't know if you guys pay attention, but I do. Bluebirds have diminished rapidly in the last few years. Mockingbirds, upland plovers, brown thrashers, just to name a few. Those are important to a lot of us. They should be important to all of us because they're the canary in the coal mine. They're telling us, you all know what's happened to the prairie chicken. I doubt if your grandkids will ever get to see a live prairie chicken. There might be a couple dozen left in the southwest part of the county, and that's it. Well, some of them are old enough to see, we saw flocks of hundreds of them. They're gone now, and that's man-made. So I would like to see a few flowers stay along the right-of-way because we got less than 0.1% of our native prairie left, and a lot of it's in the right-of-way, the flowering plants. If you look at the pastures, you'll see no color anymore. Everything's been sprayed, grazed, mowed. It's gone. And these plants are very important. As far as safety goes, I know it's a concern about hitting deer. Everybody hits deer. They're moving out of the cornfields. They're moving in the rut. But I've seen watch deer in heavy cover, and they don't bolt. they'll stay in the cover. If you got an open area, they spook. They'll run out in front of the car. So there's no documentation to show that mowing saves any vehicle deer accidents. In the last 5 years, as soon as they mowed out to the right of way, I've noticed within a half a mile, 2 dead deer that were hit by cars the next day. So there's really no documentation that's going to save any accidents by mowing it out. And then there's the cost of diesel fuel. My gosh, diesel's over $4 a gallon. Ought to be a concern there. What we wanted in the past was cut back on the mowing and save fuel. I mean, the county ought to be concerned about their budgets. These don't have to be mowed out every year. What's going to hurt if there's a little grass laying in a ditch over the winter? Your brush is not going to get big enough to cause a problem. You got some of the biggest mowing units in the state, so you can take out a 2-3-year-old tree. So that's really, I don't consider that a problem. And I think there's more appropriate ways to spend your money on the highways, and some of those are more safety concerns to me. Rumble strips, where your county roads, blacktops, come into the state highways. I know I lost a couple neighbors down by Gridley because they went up on a highway, or some out-of-towners went out on a highway and plowed into them. And hanging a little orange sign out there 100 feet from the corner's not going to give much notice at night. A rumble strip will. In Lyon County, they have lighted stop signs, solar powered. To me, that's a lot more of a safety issue than worrying about mowing thousands or hundreds of miles of roadside because you might hit a deer. So I want to reiterate the values. One other thing, I had considered donating my land when I died to the county, as a county park. Got some nice buildings, got 120 acres there. The only one in the county maintains the wildflowers in their place. But seeing the way the county takes care of things, I'm really concerned it wouldn't be taken care of. But my children want me to do that and want us to leave a legacy. My wife's cousin comes down from New York every late summer to see the buffalo and the sunflowers in Kansas. So they do have a value. You know, people go from here to the northeast to see the fall colors. People do come to Kansas to see the sunflowers. They do have an intrinsic value. There's a song by Tom Kiefer that hit the Billboard charts, topped them out in 1988. The song says, "You don't know what you got till it's gone." That's my concern. And we're only asking to delay the mowing a couple weeks. We had a pretty good compromise in the past. We lived with it. It wasn't all we wanted, but I see no reason to change. I've got a couple other people who'd like to speak here too. David Kraft was a range conservation over the state. He knows more about wildflowers than the rest of us put together. And his wife collected wildflowers for bridal bouquets and weddings, so I'll let them speak a little bit. Thank you.
Thank you.
Morning. I'm Jane Kraft, 474 Contour Road, Gridley, Kansas, 66852. Thanks for listening to us today. Leonard called me. We'd been gone, and Leonard called me yesterday, and I want to read a letter in a second, but like you said, we had a flower shop for 20 years, and one of the main draws to our bridal business that brought into Coffee County was the wildflowers, because we would put those and we would use those in our bouquets, and so it brought revenue into Coffee County. It supported a family in Coffee County, and that was out of our pastures and some in the ditches. So when we say we're picking out of the ditches, it didn't mean we're picking them all. You know, there's just a few that we would pick. So, and that would give more education to folks also that had never seen those before. And so when they saw them again in the ditches or in the pastures, they knew what they were. So there is a big value. I mean, I think we have to appreciate the things that we have here. So I think a couple weeks is not that long. I mean, I'm not in the road and bridge, department, but I think a couple weeks maybe would not be that bad, especially since that's the way it's been. So I have a letter from my brother-in-law, Johnny Freeman. I cannot, 110 Atherley, if you need that, in Gridley. So this was from him, to whom it may concern, to the Coffee County Commissioners, regarding the discussion to revise the current practice of mowing along the county right-of-ways. I'm not in favor of revising the policy that was I am not in favor of revising a policy that was previously agreed upon. I've been impressed that the original agreement was followed to this point. Without understanding justification for rescinding the current agreement, I see no reason to allow a change. This year has been a perfect example for why the agreed mowing practice is reasonable. Areas in the county affected by drought have recently received late summer rain that has allowed flowering plants to recover and provide pollinators an opportunity to recover or obtain nutrition for migration. The decision to delay mowing and provide this opportunity has been beneficial and should continue. The previous agreement should not be revised, which, when I'm saying that, I don't think you realize the agreement that you were speaking of this morning. He's speaking of the agreement that was made a few years ago, the verbal agreement. In my opinion, simply because the previous representatives are no longer present. There should be a calculated justification as careful consideration. We appreciate the benefit to Aries wildlife and hope that you will take the opportunity to allow the current practice to continue. So, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I live with her, I'm David Kraft.
He's lucky.
That is right.
How'd you mean that, Dave?
Well, she turns 60 tomorrow, so I gotta be nice to her in case I mess up tomorrow. I guess I would address this maybe from a couple of different angles. As Leonard said, I was a state rangeland specialist for USDA in Kansas, starting in the mid-2000s for about a dozen years, and then finished my career as a regional conservationist from the Gulf Coast up through the Montana, North Dakota states. A large part of my career was spent not only designing management, but also advising management of native grasslands. And noxious weeds being a part of that, but invasive species being another piece of that puzzle as well. I think two issues really maybe come to the forefront of this. One is certainly the timing of doing any kind of mowing activities in roadside ditches when some of the most troublesome species are present. Ryan did mention Serratia lespedeza, which is a noxious weed, was a county option noxious weed for many years in my career until it became no longer an option, and it was a statewide selection. But it is at a season right now where it is not only trying to flower, a lot of times even we had made decisions in the past to recommend against treatment during drought because it wouldn't be successful in the treatment of that particular species because it was a waste of money if it wasn't going to flower because it was dry. That is where we're at right now in that, but it also is when it starts to flower, you got about 6 weeks there of a window to actually control that plant before it actually has a viable seed. We're in that season right now, even though we are in a drought and it's probably not going to make much seed this year. So that would be one reason that control would be good for Serratia during that point in time. But there's a few other species that I think are probably more, or at least equal to in the problematic side, and that is both common cut-leaf teasel, Old World bluestem, both Caucasian and yellow bluestem that are present in the county. They are also very prolific seeders at this time of the year. The teasel has already seeded, but a lot of that seed now is right there in that pod waiting to be shattered and moved with a transport device like a mower. And so you can look at state departments, highway departments, and how that seed has moved from one location to another by mowing operations. I understand the safety issue of it. I hit an $8,000 deer in July coming out of a cornfield. So the deer issue transcends just native habitat, but cropland as well. So I think that is one reason. The other reason that I think is maybe more important on the big picture side of it. Kansas is one of the few states left in what I would say the central flyway region of the monarch butterfly, where a lot of these species that are very beneficial to those particular migrating insects, where both milkweed and other flowering plants that happen this time of year are still present. I collected data throughout the state of Kansas and looked at data all the way through the central region for about a dozen years where we did plant transects universally across the state of Kansas, all up and down through the central region. Kansas was the best when it comes to those plants still being present. And a lot part of that comes from roadside protection as it transcends into those other plant communities on the other side of the fence. I think you have to consider that what you do in the roadside ditch doesn't stay in the roadside ditch. It will get moved from one location to another by equipment. And when that crosses that fence line, it is a problem then for the landowner. So I think you have to weigh all those situations out and make the right decision. But certainly, putting that mowing date off a few weeks is not gonna make that much difference. It will for Ryan, I agree with that. One thing that I would ask Ryan too, possibly, if those ditches, being a taxpayer on some of those ditches that do need cleaned out from time to time, if you know which one of those are gonna be done, could mowing not be done there? On those ditches that are gonna be cleaned out and the others left behind for the protection of those important species. So, thank you. If you got any questions? Yes.
What is the date the state recognizes as mowing back? I know they're mowing back on 75 now. What's the date?
I don't know what date they actually used on. I think it probably falls back into a time constraint issue for them as well.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things that, I don't know where they go to get recommendations. You know, I think it is probably all built upon a calendar rather than on an opinion of an expert sometimes. You know, one of the frustrating things about being a specialist is, you know, even biblically speaking, it says you can't be an expert in your own hometown. So sometimes even knowing who to ask questions of is a problem. But typically, most departments never ask somebody that is a specialist in the plant community for their opinion. And so I don't think those dates are ever set based upon what is best for the plant community or for that surrounding community. I think it's based all on calendar and what job is yet to be done. I don't think it's ever been practical in regards to that. Wildlife and Parks has set up a lot of guidelines when it comes to mowing and even the use of certain practices during a nesting season. And that has been pretty hard and fast for probably 20 or 30 years. CRP has been really big in that. But other than that, there's not been a lot of questions asked of when is the best time to do those maintenance practices, to my knowledge.
That's just like going up to Melbourne Lake. You know, there's mowers and balers. I don't know whether the farmers are contracted to put that up or what, but they start mowing that here 4 weeks ago.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, and hay is at a premium, as we would all know this year. And so any kind of roadside right-of-ways are probably going to be extra important. When it comes right down to it, native hay, when it comes to a quality point of view for livestock consumption, is never the best bet when it comes to a pound of protein bought. Wade puts up a lot of hay and sells a lot of hay, but most of the hay, and this is not a knock on Wade, it's just the reality. The only reason that prairie hay is a big deal in the state of Kansas is because it goes to a lot of feedlot situations where it actually calms cattle coming down because they're familiar with it. It's like you traveling to China not knowing what to eat. Cattle going to the feedlot need something that is about 5% crude protein that settles their gut and allows them to adjust to a new setting.
Regardless what they've been eating, it's palatable for them. It's a receiving ration mostly.
Exactly. So it's never a quality issue. But it is an important issue when it comes to, you know, a lot of different uses. Spray haze. And the other thing, and I realized this about 30 years ago when I was asked to serve on a national committee, and we were designing a computer program which was really, you know, archaic as they are today. But when I started to ask why don't we have a smart button here for hay production, Kansas was the only state that had native hay production in the central part of the United States. If you get some up in Nebraska, you get some in Oklahoma, Kansas is it when it comes to native hay production. It's an important piece.
You call outside the state of Kansas, you got prairie hay, bluestem, what's that?
What is it?
What's that?
Yeah, what is it? What is it?
My question, I guess, you know, I mean, we're here talking about a government mowing practice, and we've got Wildlife and Parks that just lit off, I don't know how many acres of standalone wildflowers and everything else up there at John Redmond on the east side, from the Riverside East Park clear up to the Blacktop Road. And on the other side of the road even, I don't know, they probably burned off what, 100 acres?
Several.
And they're doing it up in Osage County as well, on the south side of Melbourne Lake, along Hope Road. So, I mean,
That's pretty much a one-time deal to get rid of brush, and let it get overgrown, they haven't managed it. So it's not a continuous practice. And one other thing I wanna say about it,
Dave just mentioned the noxious weeds in the roadsides. Yes, we need to keep control of them, but you've got several county trucks out all summer spraying those noxious weeds. That should take care of it.
Which also takes care of the forbs that you're talking about, those are wallflowers.
Yeah.
When we're spraying for chorizo or whatever, you're also killing, I mean, you're killing
Killing non-target plants, yeah.
You are.
Lots of them.
And you're right, the forbs.
And I try to stop them and educate them and show them which are should be target plants and which are, I had one that had a lot of experience, told me he only knew 3 plants. Well, maybe you should spend some time, I'm more than willing to, and I'm sure David is too, to help identify those plants so they know what to kill and what not to kill.
But like on Cerise's a real problem.
Well, I can tell you it is, I've got 200 acres I spray.
I was gonna say.
And I've got the only place in the county with the native fork because I spot spray. It takes me 100 hours a year to get that cerise out, and I never will control it, or
No, you won't.
get rid of it. But I will control it. That's what I'm doing the next 3 days, finish up.
And you're right, it is just in the bloom right now. I mean, it's.
So it's a good time to kill it.
I would address, if you'd allow me, I would address the fall burning concern, which I think this is a fairly new, Oklahoma State probably did as much research on fall burning or even what we would call growing season burns for the last 25 years, and they are certainly the authority on that. And Leonard mentioned one of the reasons why you would use a fall burn, and that would be because 2 different issues, or even a growing season burn. One is a safety issue because the rate of spread, fire activity, the intensity of that fire is completely different than a spring burn. And a lot of times we get better weather conditions on those days than we actually do have in April. So the use of fire didn't always happen in April, historically, we know that. And so the use of fire in these times of year has a couple of different things that takes place. One, you do have good control on brush. Second thing is when you talk about noxious weeds and Sericea disease in particular, if you burn it at that point in time, you're keeping it effectively from making any seed that year. And that's part of winning the battle. It's not going to kill the plant, but you are going to win the battle. The second thing that it also does, just recent research, is that it takes out about 2/3 of Old World bluestem when you burn it in that August and September time frame. So those growing season burns, you're going to see more of them. That is the new trend. The battle that we fought 40 years ago is different than the battle we're fighting today. And so the game has to change.
You need to realize if you do a growing season burn that you really deplete the forage production for that year for your livestock. I have a burning crew for the last 10 years. We burned Maxwell Game Preserve where the buffalo farm is the last 2 years because they let it grow up the brush. By gosh, you talk about a kill. We did kill the brush. And within two weeks, I went back by there and the buffalo were grazing those burned areas. It was quite impressive. That's, I guess, off the record.
So, I definitely appreciate all the information and insight. You know, that's one thing with my job. Personally, okay, I'm a beekeeper. You know, we raise monarchs several years at my house, tag them. You know, so our few acres, we do what we can there. So as I'm in this position, you know, I have to weigh what's the best for the county. You know, we have a lot of requests to mow back sooner. You know, and then we have groups like this that are asking us to not mow back. So, you know, that's where I'm in the middle. And so what's best for our county, and that's kind of what sparked this discussion today. You know, just asking for some input from the board because I can't allow my personal convictions on what I may do at my house may not be right for the county. And so that's, you know, when I'm in between, I can't choose sides. I can't choose sides. I'm here to do what's best in the interest of the people of the county. So.
No,
you know, and I don't know if it's you know, if there's some middle ground in there, you know, you know, I know on some of our roads, you get up around Old 50, you know, some of those roads are 3 and 4 passes wide. So, you know, maybe if we could just get that second pass done on some of those areas and not do a full mow back till a later date. I don't know what the answer is, but I think there could possibly be some middle ground there also.
Well, I think we found the middle ground 5 years ago when we compromised with the mowing, the changes, because we're mowing out to the right of way before that. So that is a compromise. That is a middle ground. And I'm not here for personal, I'm here for the wildlife.
Right.
I have a strong passion to maintain the wildlife, and we're losing it fast, folks. I think you all know that. All of you were quail hunters at one time, I take it. Are you now? You can't even find them hardly.
They're coming back, Larry, but it's awful.
But been waiting a long time, haven't we? They're not coming back, not the numbers we once had. Here's, if you want an editorial, you can use that. Thank you for your time, I appreciate it.
Are we mowing back now, Ryan?
No, there's probably been some mowing back down around Leroy, for instance, down in the river ground. There's areas that are typically wet 3/4 of the year. So if we have a dry summer, we try to get in and mow some of those areas out that we don't get mowed back every year.
Yeah, 'cause right now you can mow every place, plus you're mowing back lots of corn corners, kind of twisted up.
Yeah, well, we do mow back our corners.
Okay, but it's,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I think that's a good policy, especially when they got a lot of corn, 7, 8 feet tall, even
Right.
with finger. I know the bees was brought up here a while ago, and I don't know what the answer to that is. You know, we don't have near the bees or beekeepers in a lot of counties that we did just 3, 4, 5 years ago. But, they've certainly been reduced. The rumble strips, pardon me, Tom was on the commission when we was talking about rumble strips. I forget just exactly what Wayne, there was some reason that it was
Well,
not recommended to put rumble strips in, but I don't recall
When
exactly.
you start looking at that, you have to maintain a level of consistency, and I don't think it's that we can't look at doing that in this county, but if we do it for certain intersections, then there's gonna have to be, a precedent set. I mean, you about have to do them at all major intersections. And so then you're gonna get into, the classifying that, and that gets, beyond what I would be able to determine. That would all have to be traffic study through engineers to come up with that, but that's, I know we had looked at a handful of intersections on the possibility of using rumble strips, and I think that was the remarks we got back. If we started to use them at 2 or 3 locations, I think it would be potentially could cause us more issues than if you'd about have to start looking at every intersection and
Well, save several lives, it'd be worth it. I got 2 neighbors that are in the ground because somebody ran a stop sign. See it at night.
There's been a lot of families lose individuals and friends and loved ones because of poor intersections or poor awareness of intersections throughout the whole country. I travel the whole country, and it happens everywhere. A lot of the reason is people aren't paying attention.
I understand, but
They
they pay a
look
lot
at
more
their phone.
attention when you hit a couple bumps.
Sometimes. Sometimes. People are not alert driving down the road these days. They're caught up in their everyday life. They got their head somewhere where they can't even see daylight, and they're in their phone usually, and so.
Evidently, the federal government thinks it's important because the major highways do have it.
I see both sides, but personally, I guess at this point, I'd like to stick with the original agreement they had 5 years ago. That's just my opinion. Yeah, I both have valid points, and I would have to stand on the side of butterflies and wildlife, so.
The way it's set up right now, Ryan, it's working all right for you.
Other than we don't finish mowing back until February most years. I can remember as a blade guy still mowing when there's snow on the ground. So I would rather utilize that time elsewhere if possible. There's better things we could be accomplishing late fall, better projects that we could be using those people on, especially the blade guys in particular, but
Yeah, I think this gentleman's got something he wants to say.
Yeah, I'm Jim Morrison. I live at 1225 Angus. What is an unnecessary need to mow back until February? Why don't we just leave that alone and leave it natural until February before spring? Why would you need to mow it now? That's my question.
I would point back to the safety factor, you know.
Because you've already got 5 foot of the edge mowed. I mean, I don't think an extra 30 feet is much of a safety factor. And if it is, I think.
If there was a deer running towards the roadway, I think I would have more of a chance of seeing the deer running towards the roadway if there wasn't 6 foot tall grass,
I
10
agree
foot
with-
or 15 foot
I
back.
agree with part of that, but I also agree with Leonard on another part, is we're wildlife people all our lives. Study these animals, watch them on damn near a daily basis, you know, and them deer, if they've got cover to stay in, they're probably gonna stay in it. But if they gotta go across an opening,
Unless they're
they're gonna
running.
try to beat you. I can prove this several times over.
Right.
I've watched them in wide open pasture. They will run, if they're wanting to go to that west side and you're going north, they will try to outrun you. But if they got cover, they'll stop.
That's why I got a $1,200 bumper on my truck.
So my question is why don't we just leave that mowing alone until February? And there's other ways we could have them in the cost of fuel and stuff too also.
If we were gonna stay with the present policy, would it be a workable, compromise that on the wider roadways like you're talking about, that you guys went ahead and mowed the first couple passes first? You could at least be working on some of that stuff.
That would be helpful.
Still leave half of it.
Yeah, that would be helpful. You know, the roads that come into mind, Autobahn and Old 50, I know are wider.
Big right-of-ways.
Big right-of-ways. There's probably a few more out there.
That might speed you guys up a little bit and still leave some right-of-way there unmowed.
I mean, I do know if the right of way's not, if the right of way's 2 foot tall, 3 foot tall, it sure does keep the snow from blowing across
No,
onto the blacktop road or onto the gravel road, but, I mean, eventually it'll get filled up and go right over the top of it, but,
Of course, we haven't had any.
we haven't had any snow to really test that
I
out.
remember that once in the last 40 years.
Yeah, so, but, yeah, I see both sides. I do
Yeah, I
believe,
do too.
I do believe like the Autobahn and 50 Highway and 58 down here and the Wolf Creek Road and stuff like that, you know, I believe our blacktop or chip sealed roads, you know, we should open them up some. 'Cause those are the ones, now your gravel road, I can care less if you mow the gravel road at all, in my personal opinion. If it's got gravel, I can care less if it's mowed.
Well, how wide are your mowers? Aren't they 12 feet?
they're 15.
15, so you're taking out 15 feet to start with.
Right.
When you do this, when you do the shoulder, not doing 4 feet or 6 feet, it's 15 feet. That's a plenty. Give you visibility.
I don't know if you're looking for an answer today, I don't know that.
Well, it sounds like it kinda does, cause October 11th is 2 weeks away.
Yeah.
I mean,
Or 9th, October 9th,
Yeah.
Columbus Day, correct, is the
Yeah.
date?
Columbus
Which the
Day.
flowers
Nine.
have gone through their cycle by then, the
Which is the 9th.
butterflies are gone, we're good, we've compromised to that level.
It's 2 weeks. Again, I think, my opinion only, just stick with your regional compromise, and if you guys don't mind him mowing up on Old 50 for a pass or
Just
so.
don't do it on the Jacob Big Road, right? It's beautiful there. Flowers everywhere.
So right now, our policy is to wait till October, or Columbus Day,
I mean, the unwritten policy is, yes.
Well, the man's word, my dad always said, if a man's word is no good, he's no good, so I trusted the county meant
Say again,
what they said.
what is the unwritten policy line?
That we will not mow back until Columbus Day.
Okay.
So this year, that's the 9th. Maybe it's the same day.
It's 9th.
Okay. But, I mean, yeah, you know, I would, not necessarily talking just being mowed up a few weeks sooner. I would look at, you know, my preference would be a little sooner than that, but.
And I understand and I respect that, but again, I think I'd like to stick with the original agreement.
Could the commission put that in a policy so we don't go through this every time we change commissioners or engineers?
Superintendent, road and bridge superintendent.
I guess we.
Yeah, we can. So I'll tell you what, you know, so we have our policy handbook for the road and bridge that we've been going through and making some changes, and that's where the current mowing policy is, and that's really where that should be updated and documented at, like when you guys had the conversation last time, that should have been fixed
I agree.
and
I
our
thought
book
it was.
and updated, and it wasn't. It wasn't, so that would be something, you know, over the next couple of months, we hope to have that book ready to redo, because it needs a lot of updating to it on a lot of things, but that should definitely be something that should be in there. So I would say for now, we keep it the same. We're a couple weeks out, and if that gets tweaked a little bit between now and next year, then you know, I mean, you kind of see where we're at, so you guys can think about it, and before that's set in place and changed in our book, then we'll probably have the conversation again on exactly what that looks like. If there's going to be, you know, a little more mowing up on Old 50 and some of the wider areas, then that would all be part of that. So.
Well, as your mowers run into a mile that's got a lot more flowers in than some others, you could skip that, you know, until November, December, or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Of course, that goes back to
Identification and everything.
identification. I mean, a flower to one is a weed to another. That's going to be hard to make
Creates
a
a
judgment.
lot of inconsistency across the county.
Yeah.
If you want.
Don mentioned that, state mowing, the state highway, some of it doesn't even get mowed every year.
Well, and that's true.
It
but
doesn't
that's-
have to be.
That goes back to my original questions, what is the need to mow this stuff back right now? Why don't we go through winter and fall and not mow at all? I mean, there's no emergency to mow none of this. It ain't like it's gonna grow trees 5 feet.
Jesse mentioned if you got cover in the ditch, it's gonna catch
And
snow
I'd like
rather
to see a
than one
study
road.
on the fuel savings. What would it cost to save the county in fuel? And I realize you gotta keep people employed, I understand the whole circle of this.
Well, it's not about keeping people employed, it's just the amount of doing work that needs done. I mean,
My thought would be it needs mowed, so we don't have greater ditches full of trees like
Well, that's not a
surrounding
problem,
counties,
but
yeah.
if you miss one because of wet weather, it'll be there next year. You got
No, but it's a
quick
question of what the purpose is. To
Okay,
me,
yeah,
that-
I
to me,
agree with
that's
that.
the purpose. Yeah, because we've got a good road system. and we
It needs to be
maintain
mowed.
it.
in the spring, I would prefer to not have everybody out mowing when we should be getting rolling on some of our projects coming out of winter and
It's always wetter than
so-
wet in the spring
Right.
mostly too.
Yeah, a lot of times you can't even run that time of year. The ditches are wet, that's the first thing that gets wet when you've got runoff from the roads.
Appreciate your time. And Ryan has a concern, he's out there tagging butterflies, that's great. He does.
Out there taking butt chewings from the public that we're not mowing down too, so.
Well, now you can send them to me.
Yeah, I'm not gonna
take
do
it.
that, so.
I'll defend the wildlife. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
Yep, you
Thanks
got
for coming in.
it. You too. I guess my opinion is.
Thanks for your information, folks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dave.
I mean, there's an agreement out there. I guess a gentleman's agreement, a handshake agreement.
Well,
And that's the way it should be. I
And
mean,
that's what,
and that is.
and maybe
but
that's what was right for that time.
Well-
And I don't,
The agreement's fine, and I'm not saying I'm against that, but guys, today's the day. We're the board members today. If there's a change that needs to be made, it wouldn't matter whether it was in writing or not. If we say we want to change it, it needs to be changed. I'm not saying I want to, but as far as whipping this dead horse that, oh, there was a gentleman's agreement, stuff changes every day. We deal with stuff in here every day, so that doesn't have a bearing here, in my opinion. I'm not saying I don't support their their beliefs, I do, okay? But that doesn't affect this in my opinion.
All right, that's enough discussion on one day for, I guess, huh?
All that's gonna do is kick the can down the highway.
Well,
I scribble so I can think. Next week it might be a whole room full of
That's,
the opposing party.
Well, and that, you know, sure, I mean, you're very.
And you're exactly right.
Yeah.
you can't,
exactly
you're not
right.
gonna make everybody happy.
No,
That's just,
you're
that's
not.
part of it. So you try to make the most informed and the best decision for the county as a whole. And that's where it gets difficult for myself and especially you guys as the ultimate setting that precedence in place. So, I mean, and I understand that, and that's, you know, I know we've been getting requests for years why we don't mow back earlier, so it's just, I just felt it was time to bring some of that forward, and, you know, I made sure to invite them so they could be here, so we
I
didn't have to have that
appreciate that.
conversation twice.
And they have some good points. I mean, seriously.
Absolutely.
But by the same token, we depend on you guys to make the best judgments on, you know, how to mow and
On
when
the
to mow.
county's behalf, you're the ones that's dealing with all these issues.
Yeah.
And no offense to them, but they're not dealing with how to get this mowing done, you know.
There just isn't any clear answer to it. Just gotta try to reach a compromise.
Well, so here-
Good 5 years ago.
So here's the other side of some of this. So I actually have been researching for quite some time on pollinator habitat, you know, because their points are very valid. You know, the monarch have declined 80% over the last 20 years. You know, the honeybees, you know, I think there's an annual hive loss like 40%. So there is major stuff going on out there. So I think if there's things that we can do that's a good compromise, you know, I know there's some programs out there for creating habitat. You know, I've been talking with Todd out there at the Noxious Weed, and he and I both agreed there's probably some unused area out there that would be good places to put in some of those plots. You know, I know you can get the seed for free. There'd be some prep work done, so that's probably something I'm still looking into. But you know, I think there's probably a few more areas around the county that could possibly be something that would be beneficial and good for that side of it. You know, I'm not saying that's a compromise that needs to be made. You know, doesn't need to be made, but I think it'd be something that would be good for us to consider doing. So, I think there's about 10 acres worth of stuff out around the landfill that would be good candidates for that.
So you would just use what, like a 4 mix, I mean,
Yeah, there's a whole
I think
habitat program, and it's a pretty intense seed mix that's put together, and it's just to help compete with any type of weeds and stuff like that. It takes about 2 to 3 years to really get it fully established, but you know, basically what that would look like is you'd have your spot. In the spring, you'd go in and you would actually eradicate or spray down, and then in the fall, you'd have it prepped and ready for seeding. So I think that'd be my goal for next year. I'd like to have one spot at least to consider doing that on, and you know, it could be something that we may want to build on that program a little bit.
Why wouldn't you burn down in the fall and then have it prepped and ready to plant in the spring?
You could do that too, but the success rate for getting it established, it's better for fall planting.
Really?
Yeah, for the seeds that it is, and I mean.
That seed's pretty hard or something, and it needs to lay there over the winter.
Yeah, something that I've been reading in there. The results are better for fall planting as opposed to spring planting.
So with that, does that last just a year then?
No.
Ryan, how long?
No.
What kind of a cycle could you expect?
Forever.
Do you have any idea?
I mean, once it's established, it should maintain itself forever.
On the forbs, all it is, forbs are wildflowers. And so, like when you're doing CRP stuff, like you add the wildflower mix in there, which is great. But the problem with that is that when you spray then for cerise or whatever else, you're killing those wildflowers, either with 2,4-D or
Right.
whatever you're using.
Right.
it does take a time to establish the wildflowers. I mean, they're just harder to establish.
Right.
A number of years ago, when we were trying to establish a CRP back 15, 20 years, all the fescue then pretty well came out of Missouri. Cerisa is not an noxious weed in Missouri.
That's
Unless
right.
they changed it, so every bit of their fescue they shipped into Kansas had Cerisa.
Missouri, they plant Cerisa as a road.
As a road, right.
Planted,
Well,
A lot of us in parks did as well.
And it is a hardy
State-
plant.
state
Oh, it's
regulation.
not credit for
It's
that.
tough.
Yeah.
As far as I know, that policy is not a noxious, it is a noxious, I'm sorry, it's not a noxious weed in Missouri.
Right.
So whatever seed you buy from Missouri, you're gonna be planting. I know we seeded quite there at Toccoa, and I know Steve did too,
Yeah.
seeded a lot of fescue.
We did.
And my gosh, you go out there a year later and you see all this new Cerisa.
That's how it starts.
I'm sorry?
That's how it starts,
Yeah.
yeah.
A lot of it came in the grass, too. Native grass, too, same with it.
Any other fun stuff, Ron?
That was my list. So I guess just to recap, we'll continue with the current,
With your current plan, and then
yeah,
as you work on your handbook, throw in some. You're working on it now. I throw in some different scenarios that might work a little better, if that makes any sense. Do we need to mow everything? I mean, again, that you guys know better.
I mean, the biggest thing is the consistency. You know, Don mentioned, or somebody mentioned earlier about skipping around or skipping an area. It's, number one, that's more fuel to go back to mow that later. Number two, it's causing some inconsistency around the county as far as this mile's mowed, this mile's not.
Well, I mean, the state does that along 35. They section off half a mile and got signs on it that says, this is wildflower habitat, no mowing, no spraying, blah, blah, blah. I mean, I don't know why it would make it be any different, not to sign it off, but just to have.
Well, we have that. We have an area that's not signed off, but it's,
used to.
I don't know if it's signed or not, but anyway, out by Leonard, it's another one of those, probably a gentleman's agreement that we don't mow it.
I know 35's got several of them.
Yeah,
In the Coffee County.
15's got some.
Yeah, and, you know, so I mean, I don't care if 24th road's mowed from Fauna half mile east, don't matter to me. You know, you save your time, go mow somewhere else, I don't care. Like I say, gravel roads, I don't care if they're mowed or not personally. I'm sure somebody else.
They need to be mowed too.
Yeah, somebody will be calling and going, but, yeah. I guess instead of stirring up a whole big old box of worms, which has probably already been done. We have 3 people in here making the recommendation of the whole county to be like this, and so.
That's more than shows up for a public hearing on
Yeah.
some zoning thing, so.
Yeah.
Evidently it's that important.
We've got-
They're passionate about it.
They are, and the concerns were valid. I mean,
I agree.
David, I think David made some really good.
He was involved in that.
Yeah, he was. And
He knows so much about native grass.
Yes.
It's unbelievable.
I think that's going to continue what we've been doing.
But I like your idea about utilizing some of the land that the county owns out there to create some habitat.
Sure,
That's a good idea.
I do too. I think that's.
Worth looking
a good
into
idea.
for sure.
Then, so they're at Leonard's, where you guys park them over once in a while, that triangle, I call it.
Monument.
Yeah. County owns that there, I mean.
I don't know if the county owns that, for sure.
away,
Probably just right away.
I think just right away.
Just right away,
Oh, okay. So that's Leonard's Landing, basically?
I believe.
Okay. I just thought there was a nice big grassy area there that could be
Yeah,
utilized too, maybe.
there's several around the county like that.
Yeah?
But they're, I mean, typically that's not right away, it's privately owned.
Okay.
It's not to say that there couldn't be agreements put in place that they're not utilizing that ground. I mean, it's still getting mowed a lot of times by the county, but
Another nice area, 19th and Palm.
Something to look into, I mean, he's actually mentioned that.
oh, there's
I thought
endless,
about that.
no, there is. I mean, Matthias Lake's corner out here, I mean, there's a big
Yeah.
open grass. So, I mean, there's several across the county that potentially would be viable spots.
I wanna plant and harvest that up, that one section's worth like $1,800 a bushel or something. Yeah, for seed, it sounds like a pretty profitable thing.
Probably wants this long, run along the road, ditch. Better back in your hand.
Had to take a lot of driving. Thank you, Ryan.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Ron. And take care.
Thank you.
Mr. Wade. I think we're at round table, sir. Got a few, special issue stuff here that we got to sign later after round table, I guess.
So I'll need some executive session. You already grabbed the,
Setting on 30.
I don't think it needs to be 30.
Don't make me change it, aren't you?
I'll probably need two separate executive sessions for two separate topics within a topic. So the first is myself and the board, attorney-client, and it will be specific to legal issues surrounding a subordinate board. So
How long?
let's go 15.
I'm just failing miserably today.
Well, also move, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Moved by me, seconded by Hughton, executive session, county attorney and the board for 15 minutes. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We will enter at 11:26. It's 11:24. Oh, 11:25. We don't have much time now. You just changed.
Run.
We know, well, Wade's gotta take the,
In the middle.
Delivered 5 minutes for you.
Okay.
no action taken.
No action taken. As I indicated, I would have two executive sessions, which may turn into a third. The third wouldn't take very long, maybe 5 minutes. So the second, myself and the board, attorney, client, and it is specific to potential litigation involving a county contract or agreement, I guess is the best way to put it. So, 15 minutes.
So moved.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. 15-minute executive session, board from Wade Bowie. All in favor, say aye. Aye. We will enter at 11:46. 7:47. 15 minutes.
It's about like at least 3 to 4 minutes.
Right.
Yep. Back from the last executive session, no action is being requested at this time, which then ties into the third executive session. It would be attorney-client, myself, the board, and it is for 5 minutes and for potential litigation against the county.
I'll move.
Second.
Moved by McCurry, seconded by Thompson. Any
You just say 5
discussion?
minutes.
Yes.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. We'll enter at 12:07 for 5 minutes.
I gotta go back in, but I just wanted to go.
All right. We're back.
No action being requested.
On the round table. Got anything else for round table?
Just briefly, and I'm not sure if Tom was gonna bring it up, but the zoning board, at the direction of this board, had been seeking a consultant to aid and assist with the planning and zoning board. They've gone through a series of interviews, and they made a decision. That decision will then be presented to this board, hopefully as early as next week. So until that's formalized, I'm not gonna say any names or anything like that. I'm in the process of reviewing proposed consultant agreement that would then be presented to the board. But I will say I sat through that interview, and that the individual who is being recommended was very impressive, just in their presentation and their knowledge of that particular subject matter area. So that's all I have.
Steve?
I'm good.
Don, do you have anything?
What I visited with you about before the meeting, there was needs to his name, I just need to talk to you afterwards.
Just talk to me afterwards.
Okay, nothing else.
Pass.
I would say I sat in on the interviews as well as Wade for the consultant for zoning and planning. I believe there was 3, basically 4 that actually showed up, if you will. And the gentleman that they're considering or wanting was, like Wade said, impressive, yet the way I took it, or the way I like to explain it is he really spoke the lingo we were looking for, the knowledgeable on exactly what set planning and zoning for the county wants and their needs. I mean, he was just, his hourly rate is $100 to $200 less per hour than everybody else's anyway, but he was still, by what an economical decision. It was more the way he presented himself and his knowledge of what they're wanting to accomplish. I think it's going to be a good fit.
How many hours, or can you answer this, how many hours is he proposing to work for the county?
As little or as none as you want. He says he can start helping make changes now, and he's got some basics already in mind of where he wants to go, and I just don't think it's gonna take all that much personally. I don't know what from what his knowledge base and his experience of everything we're encountering now, and he's already encountered, and Wade can correct me if I'm wrong, but I just don't think it's gonna take all that long.
I will say this individual has been a consultant for other counties in a similar capacity, so the types of issues that Coffee County will present to this individual, it's probably not territory they're unfamiliar with, I guess is the best way to put it. So Don, to answer your question about how much time, they indicated there is no prescribed time. It can be as little as the county wants or as much as the county wants. So my impression would be early on to get caught up to speed and deal with some of the current issues that need to be addressed within Coffee County. It might be a little more, and then sort of tail off at the end, more of a, maybe a maintenance agreement is what I call it. So that the maintenance agreement then kind of as needed.
Which it might need quite a few hours to get off, get off from the start, but
Sure.
the hours may be more now and less later,
So there will be, once the finer details are worked out, then something put in place for you to consider as a board for this consultant. I'm looking at that right now. And then my impression is this individual will want to at least appear by Zoom to introduce themselves and for you to answer any questions.
I could be impressed as well.
Sounds encouraging.
The only other thing I would add is I spoke again with Mark Davison about the crosswalk, if you will, at the west end of the church parking lot coming back across the street to the courthouse for employees to get to the basement entrance. He had a legality concern, and I presented it to Wade, and we spoke with the police chief for the city at the same time, but I don't know where that's at now. Or do you have any more insight on that?
I do not. My impression was he was going to speak with the city attorney.
Okay. That's true, yes, okay.
I don't know, and I haven't heard anything.
It's all right, I may just touch base with Mr. Davidson again, just to kind of see where his thought process is. I know if they're wanting to break ground here in November, that's 8 weeks away, guys. Two months.
The other thing, speaking of the parking project, is all of the, I guess, notice has been sent out to potential bidders regarding the jail project, and the initial pre-bid meeting is October 3rd at 10 o'clock. And I think notice is going out on the paper, maybe as early as this week. And those documents are also available on the county website on, I forget what the page is, but they can be accessed there. All bids will be due by October 19th at 2 o'clock. So just so everybody's aware, the process is moving forward, and we'll see what happens as it relates to the bids. So.
Okay. Angie, do you have any roundtable today?
Just check the vouchers on Wednesday. That's all I
Oh,
have.
yeah, we're not adjourning today, are we?
That'll be at 9, is that right?
Yep. Did you get the bill from Jack School? Resent to the county?
Yes, and we have to tax it up.
Okay, good, that's about $400 with it, $441. So. Oh, I don't think I have any rounding. I'll finish signing these checks. Come out of, this come out of one of those. There you go.
I'll check.
That's all checks, all vouchers are signed. We will. We gotta be in for you to sign, Wade? We gotta be in for him to sign that?
No.
I sign them all the time.
Right.
Okay. We will recess until Wednesday at 9 o'clock. Recess will be at 12:23 p.m. today.